love to sing a couple of songs for you. And what's different about the Threshold Choir songs is they're just getting you centered in the present moment. Allison sit in a chair and we'll sing around her as if she was in bed, although sometimes we do sing to people in chairs. And when we practice with each other, we have like a lounge chair, and we sing for each other in rehearsals too. So, so we all know what it's like to receive. Am I going over there? Oh, okay, sure, I could do that. Oh, I'll stay. Okay. Starting? Which one do we do? They want me to be peace. May you be at peace. May you be at ease. May you be free. May you be happy. May you be at ease. May you be at ease. May you be free. May you be happy.
Phone out to over to David Gorn. David Gorn is a lot of you know him. He's been involved in a lot of things. Right now he's doing his own podcast called Our Stories. He's also on the Planning Commission right now, and some of you may know him from his days at the Half Moon Bay Review, or maybe even KQED as a news editor. So he is going to be moderating today's discussion with Rabbi Moshe Heyn and with Gabrielle Jimenez. And so I'm going to pass the microphone so he can give a proper introduction.
Thanks, Ron.
At 40-something, I decided to change my whole life and go to school to be a hospice nurse because I wanted to help improve the way people are cared for at the end of their life. And I have witnessed 2,000 last breaths, and that's impressive and scary, and some people wonder why, like you said. But the truth is, I think we do this work because we can. I can't do other jobs. Like, there are some things I'm not capable of or couldn't be called to. So I think I do this work, especially speaking and writing and teaching, so that I know that people who are at the end of their life, or people who love someone who's at the end of life, have the tools they need to do this work on their own with confidence and with less fear.
Well, so I wasn't going to bring it up, but today is 22 years ago today, my wife died. And so I shouldn't have brought it up. God, I'm going to make myself cry.
Yes, you should have brought it up.
But
I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the hospice was such a blessing, and the rabbi was such a blessing. And it was, so I think it's underrated, sort of, people don't like to take help, but taking that help was tremendously important. So anyway, my one little piece of advice. maybe we start with the question that I hear over and over and over again, which is, how can you tell when it's time for hospice or when it's time for ending your life? A lot of times people are, while they're still cognitively all there, they don't want to die. But once they get to be cognitively impaired, maybe they do, but they're cognitively impaired. So take us through some of the logistics of end of life. Yeah, go ahead.
I think
Either one.
when we age, when we decline from age or illness, there are certain changes that we experience. And some doctors might say, oh, you're not quite ready for hospice yet. Some want you to keep doing treatments or try other things. Well, meanwhile, this person is suffering emotionally, physically, spiritually. And I think that the thing that we want to do most importantly for someone who is declining for whatever reason is to be their advocate. If someone is saying, I don't think you're ready yet, say, I think they are. And have that conversation. Because our bodies know what to do. They're amazing. And they send us signs. When we're strong and healthy, they might send us signs like our legs aren't as strong, or we might get headaches, or we might have reactions to foods, or whatever our bodies tell us what to do. They tell us how to live, and they tell us how to die. And we need to respond to that, right? And we can usually do the things when we're stronger and healthier. But when our bodies are ready to die, they tell us. We want to eat less, sleep more. We have less energy. Maybe we become a little more confused, a little withdrawn. And when you witness that in someone, that's a sign. That's your body saying, listen. And when you do that, then you want to speak to the doctors and say, hey, these are the things that they're experiencing. Hospice is something that your doctor will suggest when you have a suggested life expectancy of 6 months or less to live. That's just a number they made up. Some people will live a day when they've started hospice. Some will live several years.
Yeah, that's one of the misconceptions and myths about hospice and death and dying. I hear it all the time, but hospice can be years and years.
People don't realize that, but the one real criteria besides receiving a diagnosis is losing weight. When they start losing weight, they eat less and sleep more. I would say that's when you want to start paying attention.
That's a good point. Moshe?
I'll just add that it's, at some point, if it's a family member, that it looks like we might be coming to the end of the road. You got to have somebody there for you, and you got to make some kind of plan. You can't just, everything just doesn't all stop, Mm-hmm. So that's when we come in. We could give you a case study. Somebody we ended up working with both together, kind of in a complementary way. It was amazing, and she was fighting death up until like that last week or two, and that's when you came in, and wow, it made such a difference.
We didn't know it.
Tell me why.
We didn't know that we were connected.
Yeah.
So her daughters called me and said, Mom's done. She has fought the good fight. She has tried, she's tried everything. Now she's bedridden. This is not the way she wanted to live the rest of her life. And they said, Gabby, Mom's saying she wants to die, but we don't know what to do. So I went to her and I sat down at the bedside and she said, this is not my quality of life. I'm done. And I asked her, if you could take a pill right now, if I could hand you a pill and your life would end, would you do it? And she said, yes, I'm done. So I talked to her about, and I know some people may not support this, but I talked to her about medical aid in dying, and she said, I want to do that. I spoke to her daughters. Her daughters didn't even know it was legal here. And I said, your mom's ready. I helped them get that in place, and I was there at her bedside. And it was you who brought them comfort before, during, and after that. We didn't know this, though. It just was coincidence. But she was ready.
But it is funny that I knew her for 6 years, and that she was always fighting for life, and it wasn't, and I even told her about the aid in dying medicine, and she just wasn't open to it at the time, but at some point she was.
So also there was a change in the law about aid in dying. Do you want to tell me what that was?
Well, there's been a couple changes, at least in California. One of the changes is that there used to be a 2-week waiting period between the two doctors consulting with the patient, right? There's a lot of criteria. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to take this medication. You have to have a terminal diagnosis with 6 months or less to live. You have to be over 18 and able to verbally communicate cognitively. And one of the criteria is that you meet with one doctor and they consult and determine that you're appropriate. And then 2 weeks later, is this the law you're talking about? Mm-hmm. 2 weeks later, another doctor, another consult will come and verify, confirm that you have met all the criteria. 2 weeks is a lifetime when you're at the end of your life. It was just changed about 2 years ago to 48 hours. Right. That made a difference, a beautiful difference.
The other thing that I feel like I have to mention, I have a physician friend who deals with end of life, and she says if you say nothing else, say the words advance directives, because a lot of times, maybe you should explain, why are advance directives important? Do you want to tell me?
Well, there may be a time when you're incapacitated and there should be some kind of legal document that says who you want to be responsible for the decisions that need to be made.
Well, because you're often cognitively impaired toward the end, and so you have to make your wishes known both to everyone around you, but also legally.
It's important to know, though, that the doctors can override your advance directive in the hospital. So what I tell people is definitely get your advance directive and your wishes in writing, and name 2 people to be your representative if you don't have a voice. And I teach a class where I help people prepare all of this, and one of the things that I advise is that you make a video recording of yourself saying, this is what I want, this is how I want it done, and these are the people that will make my choices for me. Because as an advocate, we want to give people autonomy and a voice for as long as they possibly can, but when the volume has been turned down, they need to know that someone else will be representing them. And so you have to have all your bases covered. Make sure it's in writing. Do a video. I tell people to do a video because then you hold it up. And also make sure you have at least 2 people to honor your wishes and speak on your behalf. My advice is usually that you don't have it be a family member, especially if they're your children and they don't get along, because they might not agree at that time.
Well, and kids always want their parents to live longer.
Yes.
They always do. Are you talking about the power of attorney for healthcare decisions?
Yes.
And it's 2 people. I haven't heard 2 people. I've always heard one
I
person.
say 2 people in case something happens to one or one can't be there. Because I think you should always have a backup in life, right, in general.
Okay. So from a practical standpoint, is there anything else that you want to tell me about how to prepare for end of life and for making that decision?
I think you have to think about a couple of things. The first one is who's going to make your decisions for you when you don't have a voice. The other is to think about where you want to be, who you want there, how you want to be cared for, how you want your symptoms managed. Because one of the decisions that is really hard for others to make on your behalf is how you feel about medications. My end-of-life plan is about this thick. I've got everything. I even have a 12-hour musical playlist. I want it to be my way. So I want that for everyone. In order for your wishes to be honored, you have to tell someone what they are. And I need you to think about how you want your pain managed, how you want to be cared for, that you don't want to be forced to eat or drink. You want to be allowed to sleep. You want to just be able to lean into what your body's already trying to do. But if you don't tell that to someone, then someone else will make your decisions for you.
Ron, can you go around and collect any cards with questions, just to make sure that everybody gets the questions answered? And then Rabbi Moshe?
Yeah, I might as well say that, when it comes to practical things, call Gabby. But because I work on an interdisciplinary team where there's a doctor, a nurse, a social worker, and a chaplain. So when it comes to practical things, the other members of the team deal with most of the practical issues. You know, I do from time to time, but my role is not really to address those practical issues. I can refer out.
One thing I will say for you is that the two least, or the two most misunderstood members of the hospice team are the chaplain and the social worker. And I think that's something you want to be put in writing too. If you have a strong faith and there is something really important that you want to have someone pray for you or read to you at your bedside, have that prepared. Or if you want someone to come from the spiritual perspective, invite them in. And one thing I have learned is that people with a strong faith have less fear. They know where they're going. They know who's going to be there. People who don't often have the curiosity. Where am I going? What's going to happen? What's this going to be like? And the hospice chaplain isn't going to tell you that. They're going to listen to you in a way that's going to make you feel heard and help you make peace with what might happen after. So my recommendation is that you cover yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Beautifully said, beautifully said. And I would say that, you know, far from serving as in a religious role, the chaplain helps in other ways, and in my case, I think I'm more of a values-based. I have a values-based approach. And you mentioned love and fear. I can tell right away. You know, usually I'll call a family and say, okay, hi, you know, you just came onto our service. I'm the chaplain. Oh, that's okay. We don't need a chaplain. That's the end of the conversation. You know, it's unfortunate. So I ask you, and you probably tell people, you know, when the chaplain calls, give them a break. You know, just let them come to see you at least once. And oftentimes they discover that, wow, there's a lot of other things we could talk about besides religion.
They're the best listeners.
Well, so somebody wants to know, when you get a diagnosis, either mental or physical health, that is a scary one, like dementia, anxiety producing, how do you come to acceptance of that? Both the person who's going through it and the family member that's accompanying them.
I need a minute to think about that. You want to say anything?
I don't know if you come to acceptance. I think maybe you learn to make peace with it and find a way to move forward with a sense of grace. Acceptance is a big word, and terminal diagnosis, your whole life flashes before you. You start looking at all the things that came to this point, and that's a lot to take in. And I think for me, because I don't have a strong faith, my response to that would be I would need to make peace with it and find a way to lean into it with a sense of grace in the best way I possibly can, because I always say to people as a hospice nurse and as a doula, we can't change the outcome, but we can make the landing softer. I want to make my landing softer, so I need to make peace with it.
David, in response to that question, you know, I don't come into this situation with an agenda. You know, if they ask me, you know, how do I come to acceptance, and then that's a whole different approach. I think my primary responsibility and role is that of being a witness. Witnessing the good that I see when I encounter a person, and, you know, reinforcing that. You know, Blake, are you able to show that image I was talking about? I felt compelled to share that, you know, because I have a values-based approach. I'm a big fan of this social psychologist with a very Jewish name, Sholem Schwartz. And he developed, he's now in Israel, retired, but he developed this, show me the other one. What's called the theory of basic values. You can look that up. And there's just 10 basic values here. And you could get into looking at the interrelationships and the dynamics between them, but these are universal values. And so when I experience and encounter a person, I just see different configurations of these values. And then, Blake, could you show me the other image? The other one breaks it into, here we have the same 10 categories, but they're broken into subcategories. There are like 57 of them here. But, you know, it's very much like in your book. I think there are like 44 different. In Judaism, we call this musar, and we call each soul trait a midah. So these are all like midot, like soul traits. And when you gravitate towards one grouping or another, that pretty much defines how you live and how you die. Yeah. So anyway, you can remember that name, Shalom Schwartz. Okay. Blake, you can take that down. Sorry, you can take it down. Thanks.
Gabby, everyone wants to know, how do you become a death doula?
If you are a
Quite a
hospice
title.
volunteer, you are already a death doula. That's just my opinion. So, short story about death doulas, they are non-clinical. They are not certified, state licensed, or state mandated. They don't have to have CEUs. They don't have to have insurance. A doula is a non-clinical companion for those who are at the end of their life. But you can see them long before. Doulas can do a whole lot of things. They can prepare your advance directives. They can help you with legacy planning. They can do end-of-life ceremonies. And they can guide you at your end-of-life journey from start to finish and hold your hand at the end when you're grieving. They are not a replacement for the hospice team, and they are not a member of the hospice team. They are paid out of pocket. There are a lot of classes out there, a lot of people charging a lot of ridiculous money, and then saying you're a certified doula. That is not true. Do I think you need to have the training? Yes, I did it after already being a hospice nurse, and I did it because I wanted to dig deeper within me. I'd already witnessed death. I knew how to be at the bedside, but I think I wanted to understand death and the sacredness of it, and I really wanted to understand presence and how I could show up in a more meaningful way. I am a better nurse because I'm a doula, and I also think I'm a better doula because I am a nurse, but I can't be a nurse when I'm a doula. So I've kind of cheated, and I created my own language that I can use as a doula. But to be one, there are a lot of programs. I would be careful, and really take one that aligns with what's most important to you. And it's not about how much you pay. It really should be what gifts. You know what? You want to take a class that brings out your best qualities. And I'd be happy to help you with that because there's some I would not recommend.
This is probably true for you, but it's true for me, that this work is a spiritual practice, right? We're working on ourselves too. So I hope one of those questions is like, how does this work impact you as a person?
So how does this work impact you as a person? I'm serious. You brought it up.
Let's see, it's an opportunity. I think the best thing we can do on this planet is to bless and be blessed by one another. So that's what I get the opportunity to do. I witness what's going on in a person's life and how they're coping with that, and support them any way I can, and also and bless them. And I feel that I am blessed by them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a two-way. I mean, that's why you chose to do what you do. That's what you talked about before.
I'm trying to think of how to. When I sit at the bedside, the thing I witness most is regret. No one ever says, I'm glad I worked so hard. Never. They all say, I wish I had done all the things I had talked about. I wished I didn't hold on to grudges and anger for so long. And I think that for me, what this work has taught me is that life is precious and life is fragile. But more than that, I don't want to die with regret. I had a really traumatic childhood, and I had a lot of bad things happen, and I wore them like a heavy bag of bricks my whole life, thinking I had to take it with me everywhere I went. They're heavy, and they got in my way. Working in this field taught me to let them go, because I'm so grateful to be alive, and I want to savor each day with childlike enthusiasm. And it just doesn't pay to be angry or hold on to things that have absolutely no need in your life anymore. So I think that's what this work has taught me.
So I want to ask you a couple of specifics again, which is the laws regarding death
Medical aid in dying.
without a terminal diagnosis.
Say that again?
It's the new legality regarding death with dignity without a terminal diagnosis.
That's
But-
not
Yeah,
not a thing.
I haven't heard of that, so I just thought I would.
In order to be appropriate in California to take the medical aid in dying, and in California it's called End of Life Option Act. And we actually I don't refer to it as death with dignity. I think in Oregon they might, but in California, you have to have a terminal diagnosis with 6 months or less to live. You do not have to be on hospice to take it, but it's easier to have the doctor's visits. As a doula, I will not take on a client that is not on hospice. So there are some legalities and some criteria that you have to follow, and that is not one of
I
them.
think it was probably out of state,
Okay.
because that was my experience too. But,
In Switzerland, I think it's Switzerland, you can, I mean, that's a lot easier. In Canada, they have a different way as well, but I do think you have to have a terminal diagnosis.
well, and there's a question here about PULSed, and how does that fit into advanced directive? Can you explain that?
So usually, at least from my experience, the PULSed is that piece of pink paper that when you are given a terminal diagnosis, the doctor will fill it out for you and you put it on your fridge. That determines who your durable power to attorney is, but also how you want to be cared for at the end of life. Do you want medications? Do you want comfort care only? So it really outlines your wishes. It is a requirement when you are in hospice that you have the PULSed filled out. If something happens, for instance, and you're at home and you fall, right, and your person can't pick you up, the rule on hospice is that you don't call 911, you call hospice. But some people do call 911. If they don't see the PULSed on your fridge, which is where it normally is, they will make choices to bring you back to life. That PULSed is the difference between DNR and full code. Do not resuscitate or do everything to resuscitate. So the PULSed is really honoring your wishes when you don't have a voice. But it's not the same as an advanced directive.
For people who haven't heard the term, POLST, it's an acronym for something. I don't even know what it is, but that's what it's called.
It's Physician's Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment.
Ah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Very
that's
good.
it.
We should have you up here. So this is on a sort of a similar topic, but you've had decades, both of you. So when you see people who are dying, what gives the person or the family the most peace? What sets them at peace?
Do you want to think about it? By the way, there's a winner card here.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. That's a really big question.
Yes.
I think often what brings somebody peace is when the people around them are at peace. I have this saying that is, meet them where they are, not where you want them to be. We all have an opinion. We all have our own ideas of how we see this playing out, but someone who's dying, they might have their own way. They may choose to stop eating and drinking. They might choose to just sleep. They might choose to stop all treatments. That gets to be their choice. When someone is dying from age or illness, their autonomy is taken from them. People start telling them how to feel, how to be, what to do, what to think. Our role as those at the bedside is to say, you speak until you no longer have a voice, and when that happens, I will be your voice. And for that person lying in the bed, they need to know that the people at the bedside are showing up, that they're not walking away, that regardless of whether their interests are the same, they are saying, whatever you need, I will do. The family that we were talking about, the daughters didn't even know that was really an option that they could participate in, and they were so excited for their mother that this could happen and that we were able to get it done so quickly, but they never once balked about it. They asked, what do we do? What do we say when we go back to talk to mom? You tell her how proud you are that she made a decision. You tell her that you're going to support her in every single way. Once she heard that, and she even was told by her grandson, Grandma, do this. You're going to see the people that you love, and one day I'm going to see you too. I think they feel peace when the people around them feel peace.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Wow.
Seriously.
I think that's a great case in point, thinking about that situation, bringing peace. I think peace comes more or less to some degree with acceptance, but it could be reluctant acceptance, and they never really get to enjoy any peace. In this case, they really did. Wow.
Everyone was so joyful.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's an additional step beyond acceptance. That there's got to be, it's usually shared too with the people around them.
So it's like a group effort
Yeah.
almost. Okay. So, Rabbi Moshe, have you witnessed any transcendental experiences during the dying process? And in specifics would be good. And I'm glad I got these cards. I wouldn't ask that.
Well, I'm a very spiritual person, but for me, the supernatural is not something that's separate from the natural world. It's just...
I'm not saying that you experienced it, but what did you see?
Oh.
Have other people experienced it? Have you,
Yeah,
do they say that experienced it?
lights go on and off, at that very instant, and you hear all kinds of stories like that. But yeah, it's transcendental. I think part of my experience is that people live on and visit you in the form of the memories that you have of them, and so I think of some hospice patients that became really good friends, and I think of them often. I usually have pictures of them in my phone too, which is nice. So they live in that way. And for me, I think I've studied teachings of gurus and saints, many who have been long dead, so I have more friends who are dead than who are alive. And just I've gotten used to that, so it's not like a supernatural thing for me.
I love this conversation so much. Like, we could do this all night.
Yeah. Well, there's more.
Okay, I'll try to tell you this as quickly as possible. Yes, people, when they're dying, I believe they have this amazing sense of awareness and they see things we don't see. Do they see the loved ones that have passed? Absolutely. Do they see their dogs? Yes. So I'll tell you, I know we don't have time, so I'll make this quick. I had one gentleman that said, Gabby, come here, and brought me closer, and he said, my dogs have been jumping up on the bed. And I said, I didn't even know you had dogs. He goes, no, they're right here, right now. The dogs that had died years before. And he says, does this mean that I'm dying? And I said, you are dying. He goes, does this mean I'm dying soon? And I said, yes. And he said, okay. And I said, but look, you're not doing it alone. And then I'm going to tell one more. Yeah. And then I had another woman who was a very well-known jazz musician. And she only listened to jazz. It was the only music that was allowed in the home. And her husband, however, had different musical tastes, but was not allowed to listen to his music. And one day he called me, and she was close to dying, and he said, you got to come here. She needs to talk to you right away. And I said, okay. So I'm trying to talk fast so I can do this fast. And she said, Gabby, there is this man that keeps coming and playing music at the end of my bed. And I'm like, that's so cool. And she goes, no, it's gross. He's a hippie. His hair is long. And she describes him, right? And I'm like, oh my God, it's Jerry Garcia. So
I was visited.
So I pulled up a picture of him, and she goes, that's him. And I'm like, send him to my house and ask him to bring Tom Petty. That would be like the best day ever.
Okay. Well, that leads into the next question. And a friend of mine actually did a story on this for NPR, which is, do you have experience with psychedelics at the end of life?
Personally or professionally?
No, with other people.
Yeah.
Do other people use them? And in particular, the card says to mitigate fear, and I have heard that as well.
I have actually had several. I recently just had a gentleman who knew that he was dying, and he wanted to do ayahuasca before he died because he wanted to release some stuff. He came back so peaceful and lovely. I've had others that have been taken some prescribed mushrooms to help reduce fear and anxiety and uncertainty. I'm actually a super big a supporter of that, because if you can relax before death, your death will be gentler. Because if you're relaxed in your head and your heart, your body will respond.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
Yes.
You got something?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
There are, conferences and workshops and courses, for which you could earn a degree where they talk about this very thing. I mean, psychedelics in therapy, and in religion. I mean, it's huge, huge field.
Yes, it is.
So, I think one person noticed the mushrooms on my shirt, but I'm a big proponent of the research, and I have to say that, it can acquaint a person with altered states, which have been with us throughout history, whatever it was that induced them. And many would say that, it's altered states that are the genesis of religion. Mm-hmm. So, so anyway, there's so much to be said about that. But it's good to be acquainted with those states because, people who are dying also experience altered states.
Well, yes. A lot of people have revelations and want to have revelations about their life and the people around them, and maybe that's an avenue.
I would encourage them to be led by someone who has experience.
Yes. Okay. So raise your hand. So this is a really good one that I don't know the answer to. So what are the confidentiality guidelines set up for chaplains and death doulas between the dying, their families, and the medical team? Do you have to tell everything to the medical team or to the family if they've told you something?
I think of us as secret keepers. We're often the people at the bedside that someone will tell things that they've never told anyone to. And I hold that with great confidence and respect. I am not going to tell the family. I'm not going to tell anyone because I respect their privacy. I did have a woman who shared with me that she had a daughter before she met her husband, but she never told him. And she had recently contacted her, but she did not introduce her to her family. And she wrote a letter to her daughter and asked me to deliver it. And I didn't think it was going to cause harm, but when someone's dying, if they have something that is heavy or personal that they just want to release, I give them the safe space to do it. And then I have this practice, it's a Buddhist practice called Tonglen, where you say, I will carry this for you, but I'm not going to hold it here. I'm going to let it go. But that doesn't mean verbally. I let it go, in water usually. But I think that we are the holders and the carers and the keepers of people's most personal stuff that they need to let go of before they take a last breath. And I personally don't think there's anything wrong with that. Mm-hmm. If they are considering harming themselves or something like that, then yes, I think I would want to get people involved. Or if there's a deeper darkness that is happening that they would benefit from support, then I would reach out to find someone to help them.
I don't have anything to add.
So one of the questions here is about dementia, because dementia is runs from one side to the other. And so when people are in that dementia, they may say they want to die, but then later they may not. They may change their mind, but they're not really themselves. So how do you handle that? Like, how do you handle that constant crossover?
There's a certain criteria, people, place, and something, I forget exactly what it is, but they have to be of sound mind. The doctor will determine that. Now, there was one case where there was a woman, a patient of mine, who had dementia. But she couldn't tell you whether it was Thursday or Monday, but she was very clear, and had been over a course of weeks, that she was done. And I thought, why can't we let her do ELOA? She's not hallucinating or anything. She just doesn't know what day or what year it is. But does that really matter in the present moment when do you want to live or do you want to die? So anyway, I really tried to advocate for her. No. Anyway, they ended up prescribing her antidepressants. And then when I went back to speak to her, she said, "Are you kidding? No, I want to die. I want to live." It's like she completely changed her attitude about it. So, yeah, case in point.
That's one of the biggest criteria with medical aid in dying, EOLOA, is that you have to be of sound mind. And they will determine that with 2 visits from 2 doctors. One of the biggest questions right now from people is, I know that I have dementia, but right now I'm a sound mind. Could I put my wishes in writing now and get the medications and get that in place? And then later on, if I don't have a voice, can I do it? No, absolutely not. They have argued that in laws, thinking that maybe we could change that. I wish we could, but at that point, we don't really know. Are they really sure that they still want that? So I kind of like the idea that that's a no. But one of my recent people that I was with who took the medications, one of her diagnoses was dementia. It wasn't her hospice diagnosis, but it is one of her diagnoses. And because she was so cognitive and aware, it would not affect her taking the medication. So she was approved.
Okay, so if someone here feels like they're approaching death, or knows someone who is approaching death, what are the steps they need to take? What are the things they need to think about? What are the things they need to get in place? So we've talked about the advanced directives, but more than that.
Well, they have to have a doctor certify that their life expectancy is 6 months or less.
Are we still talking about medical
Right.
aid in dying or in general?
No, I'm talking about in general.
Oh, in general.
Oh, in general. So, I mean, most people in the audience are dealing with someone who is maybe nearing death, or themselves feeling like they might be nearing death. So what is it that they need to do to set their medical care, or their, what do they need to watch for, and what do they need to do? What would you do?
Well, you can speak to that, but, make sure they tell their loved ones that they love them. That's, and make sure that, they're tying things up, right?
Mm-hmm.
On every level.
I think we kind of touched on this earlier. It's thinking of these things. Where do you want to be? Who do you want there? How do you want to be taken care of? What matters most to you? Even down to what music you might want to play. Put those in place, because as you decline, you might not have a voice loud enough to hear. You might not be able to verbalize those things. I always tell people to have the conversation. I wrote a book called The Conversation, and it started out with interviews that I had with people who were dying and the things they wished they had done differently. Mm-hmm. And it all starts with wishing they had talked to the people they loved sooner, before a diagnosis, because their wishes weren't honored. And it's simple things. When my brother was dying, he was lying in the hospital bed, he was non-responsive, and the doctor came in and put his hands on my brother's feet. My brother's feet twitched, and the doctor said, "Oh, does he have a history of seizures?" I didn't call him a moron, but I wanted to. And I said, "No, he's ticklish." But how would he have known that, right? So I put a big sign on the wall that says, "Please don't touch his feet." So if there is something that is really important to you, if you don't want to be positioned on your back, if you want to make sure you always have socks on, if you don't like lights blaring in your eyes, if you don't want them to bring stargazer lilies and a bouquet of flowers next to your bed, put that in writing now.
Okay, so we have to talk about the social worker. So there's just a question about what that social worker does as part of the team.
They're amazing. Say yes to the visit. Social workers are not there to find out how bad your childhood was. They're not going to give you therapy. They're not going to sit and talk to you for hours of all the things you did wrong. Social workers are amazing. They have so many resources. One of the misconceptions about hospice is that they provide caregivers. Hospice does not provide caregivers.
Nope.
Social workers can help you with that. Social workers can help with funeral plans. If you're out of the country or you're from a different country and you want to send the body to the country, they can help with that. If someone in your family needs to leave work or school to come and help care for them, the social worker can help get a letter written to help maybe keep them still in work, maybe keep them still in school. The social worker has so many resources that can help reduce some costs, help with a little bit of insurance questions, but they have so many resources that can make this a lot easier for you, and think of things that you might not realize you need And they can help you deal with some issues, like maybe you have a dysfunctional family and they can help with that too. And they also are really good with helping with kids. Like maybe you've got kids, how are we going to talk to them about what's happening? So say yes to the social worker, say yes to the chaplain.
I would also say that nobody really wants to die in the hospital.
No.
And so often you have an event and you go to the hospital and you can't get out. And it's like, and so that's where the social worker can really make a difference.
Totally.
And even if it's just, I mean, they may put you on hospice and arrange transport because they know that you want to be home with your people.
The social worker can expedite all of that. And I don't just mean the hospice social worker. If you're in the hospital,
right.
you have a hospital social worker. Ask to speak to them because they can expedite that as well.
Yes.
Good question.
Okay, I have run out of cards, and we are actually at that point where we ask questions. So if somebody has a question that has just come up, Ron, do you have a microphone? I don't know if we can use, yeah. I think we have a question up here in front.
What about the caregivers that are doing hospice? I've been in that position, and I got really burnt out. Sometimes I stayed up for like 3 days, no sleep, and trying to feed a dying person and during the off hours. And I think they get very little attention. I suffered a lot from that experience. Still have bad memories about it. Thank you.
That is another thing that social workers can help with. One of the members of the hospice team or the volunteers, they can arrange to have volunteers come and sit with your person so you can take a break, you can get a shower, you can take a walk, you can sleep for a little bit. They could offer that a couple times a week. There are organizations as well that can bring someone into the home and at least sit with your person for a little bit. But the social workers can help arrange for you to get some support. I mean, I can't promise it, but it is something that's available.
Well, I would also say that it could be a person you know. Take one person, put them in charge of all the people who say, how can I help? And really they want to help, and you don't want to ask for help because you're like in the middle of the swamp. And so if you have someone who can help organize the people to help, that it really makes a difference on the caregiver.
I bet most of us have experience with caregiver burnout,
Yeah.
right? You got to be really
Oh, yeah.
conscious about that.